Joel Cleaver here, and just with a quick video updating you on the $60 million announcement from the Victorian Government regarding mental health support, obviously, which is going to be needed even more post-lockdown. We are in a lockdown period in Melbourne, Australia, if you're watching from afar. And as a child who grew up with a single mother with bipolar, even then in normal circumstances when the economy is flourishing, there's no issues, there's no pandemics or whatever, it's still going to be a tough environment to be in it. And you needed an escape where you had to go do sports, or you had to ride bike with some mates, or going to school was an escape. You had to get out of the place. Whereas why I fear a lot for people now, for young people especially, who are in those environments similar to what I grew up in, to be locked in that home and not have the escape or that release valve where they can do it. And if they can, I think it's for an hour a day exercise. So that's really a concern for me, because right now, if that 4 weeks is going to be very intense for people and for young people. And if anyone's watching it who's in that scenario, I'd just say, knuckle down, stay in your room. If you play an instrument, or if you do, just keep yourself occupied and just stay in the room. And if someone comes to knock on your door and try and interrupt you with whatever it is, just just tell them to go away and just stay focused on yourself. But in regards to the $60 million, when I was reading through what the support was provided, I'm not saying it's not more important than the other, it's not. But as always in these things, there's never any mention of young people or kids in regards to growing up in these situations. Where the money generally goes is with young people with mental health issues. And surprise to most people that if you do grow up with a mentally ill parent, you don't always have a mental illness as a result of that. So there's a lot of young people who grow up in these environments who are perfectly fine and normal, and are young carers in the community and get no support once again from these announcements. So, and I know there's a Royal Commission going on and stuff like that, so we'll see what happens. But any implementations or recommendations from a Royal Commission is going to take years anyway to implement. So what I recommend you do is there's great many charities who support mental health and do an awareness, and which is a lot of awareness now, which is fantastic. And it's still going to keep going. However, there's various organisations in various states which do help specifically young people who are young carers, who have parents with mental illness, or a parent or primary caregiver with mental illness. And in Victoria, the statistic is 250,000 kids in Victoria have a parent or a caregiver with a mental health condition. So you don't hear about that often, but there's a lot of people who did grow up in the same scenario, and you can basically donate some money to these places where you can pay for a kid to come from the regional area, or pay for a kid to attend a workshop where they bring kids together and they do activities together. And I know if I had that as a young person, what a difference it would have made, because as a young person growing up, you don't, and because it's not talked about that much with the stigma, you feel very isolated and you don't know that there's actually other people out there. And from that statistic I'll throw out to you again, 250,000 kids grow up in that situation. There's quite a lot, and they grow into adults. So I'll do a lot more videos regarding this, a bit more short snippets, but this is my first one underway. And as you can tell, I do use a lot of good cameras at work. This is just not a phone to show you that it doesn't matter about the camera all the time. Just get the quality or the content and message and refine it from there. So if you did make it to the end, make sure you subscribe to my podcast, which is the Authentic Combos podcast on iTunes and Spotify, and also to the Authentic Combos podcast channel on YouTube, or just search Joel Cleaver. And if you've got any